Okay guys, welcome to the second video of Avalanche's playthrough of Final Fantasy VII. I'm just going to quickly take us through to a lot of the talking sequences to speed things up. Obviously the last video that we did involved us starting the game fresh, going through some of the basic commands and some of the buttons and what they did, and getting through the first sector bombing, as well as completing our first boss, the Guard Scorpion. This video, like I said, is just about to take us through towards the second boss, which is called Airbuster, and there's a little bit of the backstory as well. What I will do though is I will skip some of the FMV sequences because they're not proper FMVs. You do need to press enter and stuff through them to skip them, and also because it'll make the video a bit shorter. Obviously we've come now to a bar in the slums, the 7th sector slums, and we've been introduced to Marlene, who's the shy timid one. Another quick choice there. Basically, a lot of these choices just influence how the game goes. I've just gone with yes because I want to please the person in front of me, who is Tifa, who is Cloud's sort of partner, so to speak. Cloud's girlfriend, if you like. We've just had a choice here about flowers. Now, this choice doesn't happen unless you didn't buy the flower from earlier from the flower girl, so I'm going to give it to Tifa to make her happy. Makes no difference either way. It either makes Tifa happy or Marlene a bit less bashful. If we go out now, Barrett will try and rump us in. I'm just going to go through. You could have had a look around the shop and stuff, but nothing you can do. You know, you just have a quick chat with people. Okay, and now you're going to find out that this isn't just any ordinary bar. There's actually a secret sort of hideout, if you like, below it, next to the arcade machine, which Barrett's just about to activate. Just have a quick drink there, whilst Jesse and everyone else goes down. There is a quick choice here, if you want. I'll show you what happens, but you can click to Tifa and you can have a drink. And you can tell this game was made in '97. You can ask for something hard. Bit of a sort of joke there from the organisers, probably. Essentially now what happens is the game won't progress. You won't be able to go anywhere until you go downstairs. So you can go out and explore, or you can go downstairs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go downstairs and sort of explore a bit. The reason why I'm going to do that is because I can't explore until I've got my pay from Barrett, because at the moment I've not got a lot of money, and Barrett's going to give us 1500 gil. If you have a look at the moment, I've only got 600. So we're going to go down and have a quick chat with Barrett, and then we're going to get some money. Once we've got the money from Barrett, we're going to get access to one of the two new menu buttons. Now, if I just quickly show you here, there's a space here between magic and equipment, and a space here between config and save. This button here won't get filled for a while. This button's going to get filled pretty soon. So we're just going to have a quick chat with Barrett. You'll find out obviously about Soldier. Now in our first battle we had with the enemies that we faced at the start of the sector train station. They when they fought us, we were known as EX Soldier, in other words X Soldier. So we know that Cloud now is a former soldier, and we know Soldier is some sort of security force that works for Shinra. So obviously we're starting to build a mental picture now of what Cloud's past was like, and we're going to get a much bigger idea of his younger past. So obviously Cloud wants to have a quick chat about his money. You go upstairs, Tifa tries to stop you, as you'd expect, because there's a lot of emotions running high here. You can tell that Barrett's sort of charged when it comes to taking out Shinra. A lot of the reason why Barrett's quite angry about the Shinra will be revealed much later on. It's to do with Barrett's sort of past, if you like. But enough about Barrett's past. We're going to start learning a bit about Cloud's past, and more specifically about one individual week that happened 7 years ago. So obviously know that the planet's dying. We don't quite know yet why the planet's dying, but we know those reactors have something to do with it. Now obviously the macro energy that they're producing will have an impact on the planet, but we don't know yet how. We'll find out much later on why. Obviously another choice here. I want to make Tifa happy, so I'm going to press sorry. Now, when the game harks back to 7 years ago, as the phrase says here, it refers to not the whole year, but one individual week. Now I'm going to fade out here. There's a lot of sort of sequences where you'll learn a bit more about Cloud and Tifa's past in their hometown. So I'm just going to fade out here, and I'll join back again with just past sequence, if you like. The wish upon a shooting star in that week. Cloud's obviously not saying too much about this promise, but obviously you know that he got to join Soldier, or so he thinks, and Tifa saying, you know, you've got to keep your promise, even though you weren't famous and in the papers and whatnot, because all he thought was he was in Soldier and then he left. And here we get our wages from our first mission, 1500 gil. Now, in a second, Barrett's going to introduce us to the new command Materia. The game gives you two choices, whether to look through the commands or not. I'm going to opt not to, for the simple reason I can explain it a lot quicker than the game does. The game does it quite slowly. Also helps speed up the guide a little bit. You'll find out now that they're sort of haggling over the money that they want. Again, Barrett's sort of quite strong-willed when it comes to Cloud, and that stems from a lot of his past, actually. Anything to do with Soldier or Shinra, Barrett feels really vocal about, and a lot of that will come to fruition. You know, the main reasons behind it when we explore Barrett's hometown. His hometown is Coral. Now that's you know, a long way away yet. We're a long way from that. But his reasons for being aggressive to Cloud aren't that he hates Cloud; it's that he hates what Cloud used to be, and that's important to understand. A lot of people don't hate the people themselves; they hate what they used to be, and the reason why will become clear at the end of this video. Obviously here is the Materia guide, so I'm going to click no. Obviously if you click yes, it'll go through it. Right then, and that is now the end of this area. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have a quick exploration mission. We're going to go round, have a quick explore, get some new weapons, get buy some materia, as well as equip materia we've already found, and then sort of go on with our mission towards the train station. Now, there's a few shops and whatnot around here. I'm not going to go through too much about what the shops do. All I'm going to do is teach you a little bit about equipping weapons. I'm not going to go through too much yet because there's not a lot to go through. So I'm going to quickly buy some iron bangles. I'm going to buy 3 of those. And then I'm going to equip them, and I'm going to show you what happens when you equip weapons. This is a weapon, and this is obviously your armour, and then you've got an accessory here. We don't have any accessories yet. If you have a look there, it says slot, and there's no icons, whereas there's 2. And if we go to Barrett, there's 1 there with Tifa, and 2 there with Barrett. I'm going to equip our iron bangles. You'll notice we get 2 more defense and magic defense points. So I'm going to equip that with all 3. And then, these slots here represent materia slots, so there's 1 slot there and 1 slot there. 1 slot there and 2 there, and those 2 are linked. You don't always have linked slots, and 2 there that are linked with 1 there. The linkage there means that we compare materia with it. Now, you won't know too much about what that means at the moment. We'll go through that later on. But essentially it means that Cloud can equip 3 pieces, Tifa can equip 2 pieces, and Barrett can equip 3 pieces. So, what is materia? Right. Materia is like an item which can cast magic. Now, if you have a look at this piece of materia here, it says AP 0. Now, if I go over to some of Cloud's, you'll see it says AP 63. Materia levels up as you use it more. So when you fight enemies, you get experience points, which level you up, and ability points, AP, which level up the materia. To the next level, what that means is once the materia has leveled up, it gains a star. And when it gains a star, it can do new abilities, and you can see what those abilities are below. So you've got Bolt, Bolt 2 and Bolt 3. Bolt 2 and 3 are obviously in grey. When those abilities become white, you can use them in battle. So I could cast Bolt 2 or Bolt 3. They're just stronger versions of Bolt. And with this spell here, I can cast Cure 2 and Cure 3, which are stronger versions of Cure, and Regen, which is like a spell which constantly regenerates your health very slowly. So, to level this one up, I need 2,500 APs, but to level this one up, I only need another 1,937, I need 2,000 in total. So, that is essentially what materia is, in a nutshell. What you'll find is, as you go on, there's lots of tactics and strategies for equipping materia, because you'll find that it matters not only what materia you use, but what materia you use in certain situations. Other than that, there's not really a lot more to go through for the materia guide. That's all the game would go through, and you'll find out more as you find more and more pieces of materia. I'm now going to fade out the video until we get onto the train and we're going towards our second mission. All I'm going to be doing between now and then is looking around the shops and buying some pieces of materia to equip, like this lightning and this ice. There's plenty of things to explore around the slums, but you don't need to do a lot of them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly just show you the training area. If you're at this stage of the game watching my walkthrough and you're not quite sure what to do, if you speak to the gentleman on the left here with the dog next to him, he gives you a chance to explain some stuff. So obviously there's some explanations of the buttons. Now if you actually talk, it's talking through the position cursor here, plus assistant and help on the side of the head. On the PlayStation, that's select. Now, if we, this is what I spoke about earlier, the red and green waypoints. A lot of this stuff is sort of basic stuff. Now, if you click on the man, he gives you a choice of about 8 more options. So here we are in the train. We're just about to head towards a second mission, but there's going to be a little kerfuffle first of all when Barrett doesn't realise that the train manager likes him. Of course, again, this is going to reiterate Barrett's view towards the Shinra. It's not that he doesn't like the train man, it's that he doesn't like the fact he's worked for the Shinra. Obviously, I don't want to give away too many spoilers at the moment, but let's just suffice to say that when you realise why he dislikes the Shinra, it cuts quite deep. There's a lot of personal hatred towards them for what they've done to his whole life. They've changed his past, his present, and his future, and that's the main reason why he really doesn't get on with them. Now, this train is actually going further than we need to go, because we're looking to bomb the Sector 5 reactor, as it said earlier. But this train's actually going to Sector 4. Tifa will just allude to this in a second. Now, Barrett's obviously having a little joke. Now, because this train's going to Sector 4, we need to jump out earlier. Now, we're going to pass an ID scan point, as the dialogue is alluding to, so we need to jump off. This is the first time during the RPG where we're going to get towards what's known as sort of a dynamic waypoint. In other words, where we are in the game depends on what we do over the next 2 minutes. What's going to happen in a second is we're going to get through the ID checkpoint. It's going to tell us that we obviously don't have legitimate IDs. When that happens, we get a time limit to clear each train. The time limit's more than enough to clear each train. But hidden on each train is a secret item. A lot of people don't know that. So what I'm going to do here is grab all the secret items, show you what they do and stuff. They're pretty basic items. Also, if you get to the end of the train, you start nearer to the point where you need to be. Whereas if you don't, you start further away. For the first train, you get given about 14 seconds to get off. We need to walk, a meter. For the next few trains, you will need to sort of use most of your time to grab the items. So you'll see here, the timer's coming up, 15 seconds to get out. So we need to now get out this train in 15 seconds, right at the bottom. Otherwise, we have to get off the train. So we're going to come down the train, and I'm going to talk to this item. So I get a high potion there. Now here's stolen an item, and I want it back. And then we go through here. So obviously Barrett's trying to get us to move on now, so we're about to jump out the train and we'll arrive right next to where we need to be. As Barrett's alluded to, this is the beginning of the mission. So we're about to bail out the train here just before. The three people here who are looking a bit dodgy are obviously Biggs, Wedge and Jesse in Shinra and Disguise. So, here we are, on the path towards our second reactor. Now, we're actually in the middle of train tracks at the moment. We've just sort of, might sound a bit weird. So we're going to go down here. Now, obviously, that walking into thing, it's, a way of the RPG of, sort of figuring out what to do. I'm just going to run around here for a little bit and show you about some of the new battles, because obviously we have 3 people. So we're going to get into a battle in a second. Here we are. Now, obviously, there's 3 people in the team. This is the maximum amount you can have in a team. We'll all have new AP and lots of new spells. Now I'm going to attack with Barret and Tifa. I'm just trying to remember what button I need to press to... Now, I'm going to introduce you to one of the new items we picked up, which was an all materia. If you have a look at Cloud spells, there's a little icon next to it, and it says at the bottom right hand corner, all 1 times. This will now cast a spell up to once on all the units. When it does this, the spell does get slightly weaker. The approximate weakness, if you cast an all spell, irrespective of how many more creatures it casts on, is about 20%. So, it does make it slightly weaker. Obviously, if there's only one person there, it doesn't matter. Obviously, we're going to go through the waypoint here and squeeze down. You've got to click go down, and that will then take us into sort of the the sewer system type things, the ventilation ducts. Now, obviously, as soon as we jumped in here, you'll notice there's no waypoint. We can't go back the way we came. Sometimes these are referred to as PONRs, point of no returns. So we're going to go down here. Now, in this area here, we can encounter a few battles. My advice here is to spend a couple of minutes sort of having a quick fight around here. Now, if we go around this area, we'll find that we can essentially go round in a circle. Now, there's lots of waypoints and there's lots of people. We need to go up the ladder just in front of us there to continue with the game. I'm going to show you what's up here quickly first, and then I'm going to fade out for a couple of minutes and just do a bit of training. My advice here is that you need your characters around about level 10 before we continue. So I'm going to cast a bolt spell on all 3 of them and then just attack and attack. This will then save magic points. But obviously I'm going to split whenever Cloud does this sort of double magic attack, because I want to try and spread out the cost of magic. The reason why I want to do that is because later on we're going to fight a boss, and I want to make sure that everyone's got enough magic points to constantly use magic, because if they're constantly using magic, it means then we're going to be doing more damage to the boss, kill the boss quicker. I don't mind struggling against these monsters early on, because I've got potions and I can cast Cure. So if we go up here, we'll have a little look around here. You'll see we'll actually go down a ventilation duct, and we will come into contact with Jessie in a second, who will apologise for the failure of the ID cards. There's also an item that's hidden here. It's just a potion, and if we go down there, it will take us to another area. Now if we go down here, we'll find that a lot of this area just goes back on itself. The area is essentially a square, so if you have a look here, we come out here. So I won't bother going down there. We can see Biggs. I'm not going to talk to him. Sorry, Wedge down there, not Biggs. Wedge is the one who's sort of a lot bigger. You'll notice that Jessie's gone now, and the reason why is quite prevalent, because Jessie now wants to get out of the way, because obviously they know we're going to bomb the reactor, and we're very close to the reactor. The reactor is just down here. Now, I'm not quite at level 10 yet, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to fade out now and do a bit of training. Right, I've done a bit more training now, and we're going to go up this ladder here next to the save point where we just faded out. And this will take us again past another point of no return, straight into the reactor. Now, this reactor has the exact same layout as the last one, so you won't need any directions where to go. But I'll just show you that it truly is indeed like the last one. What we do is we go down here, through this door, and so on. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to go exactly the same direction towards the same reactor. Obviously there's no Jessie with us this time, so there won't be anyone left behind. Also, after we've planted the bomb, we won't need to stop. Now if you have a look, there's some sort of barriers there, meaning we can't go down there. But we're going to go down here like the normal route. You won't have seen this last time because I faded out, so I will show it this time just so you've got the knowledge. There's the save point like at the last reactor, nothing's different. When we go down here, we'll plant the bomb in the same way, but there won't be a 10-minute countdown. The reason for this will become apparent when we get back to where we need to be. You'll notice that Tifa's down to only 10 magic points, so I'm not going to cast any more spells with Tifa to try and save magic points for when we will need them. Barrett's got 46 still, so plenty of magic points there to be used. After this battle, what I'm going to do is, with every further battle until we get to the boss, I'm just going to skip them so it will save time on the game. All the enemies we're finding around here will only have 2 attacks. They'll have a physical attack and then some sort of spell attack where it will say something on the screen and then cast an attack. Either way, you don't really need to worry. They're not going to struggle against you. You have a restore materia that will allow you to heal people, as well as, you know, loads of other things such as items. Now, this here is quite important. It's one of Cloud's flashbacks. And you notice it says Tifa there, and then he's mentioned the name Sephiroth. Sephiroth essentially is one of the sort of the antagonists of this. And if you notice, they're mentioning Soldier, Maker, Reactor, Shinra, you know, all the sort of the evil things that Barrett despises, Tifa also despises. So you're starting to realise that this group Avalanche isn't just made up of one sort of leader who's really hateful. It's made up of everyone who hates all of these things. Now these flashbacks are actually aren't sort of, you know, they aren't coincidental. They're actually planted by the members of Soldier, and you'll realise why later on when we go through some more of the storyline. So we're going to plant the bomb. This time we won't get an attack from a boss guard Scorpion. We're just going to plant the bomb, nothing will happen, and then we'll leave. So everything seems hunky-dory. Obviously there'll be a few more battles along the way, which I will skip. So this is just before we get into the lift, and just showing that we go back the way we came, up the stairs. There'll also be a couple more battles to where the lift is. Now, I'm going to briefly talk about preparing for boss battles. Most RPGs will have this. In order to prepare for a boss battle, you need to make sure, obviously, you're very well healthy, you're ready for the battle, you've got the best equipment and whatnot. We've got all of that ready. But one thing we haven't talked about is limit boosting. So, after this battle, we're going to look at limit boosting. Essentially, we're looking to fight until all of our limit gauges are close to full. Once that happens, it means that when we get into the battle, we'll be able to use our special limit powers, which will enable us to do more damage quickly, making the boss battles quicker and easier, because obviously the bosses will be able to do a lot of damage. Once we then use the limits, we can then use magic whilst the limits are rebuilding up. We might even get the chance to use the limit break twice. As you can see, Tifa's limit break will be full in a second, and Cloud and Barrett's are about half full. So what we're hoping for now, it hasn't happened, but now Tifa's limit break is complete, so we can't actually use a physical attack with her, we have to use magic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to opt to defend. Now you press right, and then press accept. I don't want to attack with Tifa because I want to save her limit break. So now what I'm wanting is I'm wanting them to attack Barrett and Cloud. Now as you can see, Cloud's limit break is nearly full, and Tifa's limit break is full. Just waiting to see if they're going to attack Cloud again. No, they'll keep attacking Tifa, which obviously isn't helping, so we're going to end the battle. Now, I'm quite happy with where our limit breaks are at the moment. I mean, Cloud's is nearly full, Barrett's is a bit away, and Tifa's is complete. The levels are a bit high. I'm just going to pick up this treasure chest, and then basically we can get out. Now, instead of pressing buttons like we did last time, what we're going to do is we're going to have to press 3 buttons simultaneously. There's no sort of guide to this. Essentially, you all need to press circle or enter at the same time. A rough clue is when the other characters raise their arms, you raise your arms. Like that. And there you are, I did it on the second try. I thought I did it on the first try, to be honest. Right, once we get out of here, we are going to be in a boss battle. So we're going to have a couple more battles before we get there. Continue down here towards our boss battle. And we're going to get stopped in a second. Now, before this battle, I've obviously made sure that most of my characters are as close to fully health as possible, as well as limit breaks being as high as possible. This is known as preparing for a boss battle. I'm going to let this FMV play through. Sorry, not the FMV. I'm going to let this scene play through because we're going to find out who the president of the Shinra Corporation is. It's this chap here. So he knows we've been exposed to Mako from the look in your eyes. Now immediately what the game's looking to tell us here is that this exposure to his eyes is what's causing his blackouts. Now they're viewing this as being a traitor, because what happens is until you have that constant stream of Mako in you, you then have side effects. So it's almost like, you know, like a drug addiction. If you keep taking the drug, you don't suffer the cold turkey aspect, so to speak. As you can see, Barrett's not too happy about this guy for killing the planet, and he says he has dinner to attend to. You can clearly tell that this guy doesn't care about this group, but he's made arrangements for a playmate, and he's just snapped his fingers, and you know what that means. There's going to be some sort of boss, and here it is, Airbuster. Known as a techno-soldier. Essentially, it's a mechanical creation. Now, what you've got to remember there is it's a mechanical creation. Now, whereas the last one was a guard scorpion, it did have a bit more of a weakness to lightning. Now, that's because it was a mechanical creation. This is the same sort of thing. So, mechanical creation, the first thing that should be screaming out to you is electricity weakness. So, fire and ice spells aren't going to be as powerful. But, they might be more powerful than just physical attacks. Now, obviously, we're going to get into a battle here, and then we need to be careful. Now, the tactics for this battle are a bit different to the last one. Because you're split into two, you've got to try and attack him from behind. That does more damage. So to start with, everyone's going to attack straight away with their strongest spells. So for Barrett, Cloud, Tifa, it's that. Now, every time you attack him, he will do some sort of counter-attack, usually involving quite a damaging attack, as you can see there. But it's immediately raised our limit up. So Tifa's now just done her limit break, only did 31. And now Barrett's going to do his limit break. Now, if you're lucky enough to hit his behind, you'll do triple damage. So it's really important to do that. It's usually double damage, but with mechanical creations, it's actually triple damage. So it's important that you try and do that as much as possible. As you can see there, 600 damage. Barrett's limit break usually does between 200 and 300, so that's done a very considerable amount of damage. However, you're realising he's actually countering really much. Now, I wouldn't worry about this too much in your game. In your game, he will actually counter doing a lot less. He'll counter for about 60. The reason why he's countering for 100 on this game is because I'm sort of playing a more difficult version. So, the likelihood is I could potentially lose a person fighting this guy. So he's doing Big Bomber now, which is one of his sort of special attacks. And let's put Barrett now down to virtually no life. So the likelihood is after this limit break, Cloud could die, in which case I will need to use a reviving item. Luckily it just missed. I'm going to get Cloud to use a potion on himself here, and then I'm going to get Tifa to cast the cure spell on Barrett, providing he doesn't die. Yeah. So Barrett's now about to get healed, and once he gets healed, I'm going to cast Big Shot again. So now I've already dealt well over 1,000 damage. So this guy already has a lot more hit points than the previous boss. Now, once it said turn function not operational, what that meant was the boss had been over half defeated. So that meant that he was obviously getting weak. I've killed the boss already, so I get plenty of experience. As you can see, try and be as close to level 10 as possible to get sort of more HP. You win a Titan Bangle, which is a type of accessory. Sorry, type of armor. But you notice that he didn't actually die when we hit him. And there's a very special reason why. Because what happened is he wasn't dying, he was malfunctioning. And as you can see, Cloud's now been blown almost to Kingdom Come. But the problem is that you've got to realise that whilst that monster's blown up and Cloud's struggling, there's still a bomb in the reactor which is going to go off soon. Tifa obviously wants Cloud to stay alive. So you've got two choices here. You can either be a wuss or be strong, so I'm going to click be strong. And that is almost the end of Cloud. He's fallen away from the reactor and you don't actually see what happens to him. So Tifa and Barrett have now been split up from Cloud and the party's going to take on a new dynamic. And that is all the end for part 2. So, just a quick recap. We've obviously gone through our second bombing mission, and we've then finished. Once we've finished, we're now going to then continue without Tifa and Cloud. In the next episode, what you're going to see, as the FMVs are alluding to here, is the advancement of the story with Cloud and the meeting of a new party member, which will eventually result in us meeting back up with Tifa and getting to the first area where there's sort of a lot of things to do.